Hello everyone, my name is Sophia Raja. I am a first year MSW student at San Jose State University. I'm an intern for the Institute for the Study of Sports, Society, and Social Change for the 2021-2022 academic year. I'll be presenting self-care and student athletes. In recent years, many might have heard about the tragic passing of the Stanford soccer player Katie Mayer last month. Parents of Katie Mayer revealed that the death of their daughter was caused by suicide and mentioned the combined pressure of school and sports was probably too much. This quote by Katie's mother explains further the statement. There is anxiety, there is stress to be perfect, to be the best, to be number one. And this story brings up the balancing act that many student athletes face and deal between sports and school. But how can their mental health concerns be addressed when this occurs? How do we implement effective self-care practices into the lives of collegiate student athletes? For my research topic, I focus on how we can incorporate self-care practices that are most effective for collegiate student athletes. And in the next slide, I will provide background on the mental health of collegiate student athletes and stress 4 main points. So according to the National Collegiate Athletic Association, mental health concerns of student athletes are starting to receive more attention as suicide rates and depression continue to increase in young adults. Collegiate student athletes are also at a high risk of experiencing depression due to new life stressors, such as the transition period of having less parental support and now having a strong connection with an intense and competitive intercollegiate sport. About 40 to 50% of collegiate athletes receive an injury that ends up in missing one or more games or sessions during the academic year. With this lack of participation or limitation in participation, it can lead to a student's athlete's difficulty in coping with the injury and causing psychological disturbance such as depression and or anxiety. But why is that? Well, according to an article written by Howard Hamilton and Sina, they wrote on the impact college has on student athletes and how an athlete's identity centers on their performance. But when recognition only comes from an athlete's performance, then a person's sense of self-worth relies on being able to make those big plays or winning the game. Now, in the next slide, I will discuss my research findings as more research on athletes' mental health starts to grow in interest. In my research findings, I found research that discovered 3 main coping mechanisms of student athletes. Some were beneficial and some were more of a sacrifice they had to commit to. First, we have support from parents. Parents were cited as being crucial in supporting athletes in overcoming life stressors and emotionally with sports and education. Secondly, we have support from coaches. Although coaches were a source of stress for some, most athletes receive support from coaches by their way of enhancing the enjoyment of the sport. Thirdly, we have educational choices. Whereas a majority of interviewees in this study that reportedly sacrificed the quality of their academic work to be able to balance both sports or education or choose one area to excel in. Overall, there are various ways student athletes have found coping mechanisms that benefit them in a positive light, but some have found the need to sacrifice one or the other in order to excel in one area. But where does taking care of oneself mentally and emotionally fit in this balancing act? In the next slide, I will discuss how coaches and counseling services can work together to support the care of student athletes and create a space for self-care. In this slide, I will focus on a handout from Western Kentucky University. It's called Student Athletes 101, and it provides 4 ways on how coaches and counseling services can work together to support student athletes. So first, we have dialogue. There needs to be a strong and consistent dialogue between coaches and counseling services when discussing the care of student athletes. Second, we have time management. Students need to be provided resources on time management and how to balance athletics, classwork, and themselves. Third, we have flexibility. Student athletes need more flexible counseling services or resources, especially after practice or on a weekend when there's a game. Lastly, we have mentorship. Mentorship is needed for student athletes as serves as a support system between new or current student athletes and successful athletes who could be their mentors on the long term. Overall, my research is just the starting line that can lead to the improvement of mental health in collegiate athletes through effective self-care practices, but it should also hold faculty and administrators accountable when it comes to implementing change and pursuing opportunities to challenge and support the care of student athletes. Thank you for viewing my presentation. Please feel free to contact me at sophia.raja@sjsu.edu with any questions or comments. Once again, my name is Sophia Raja, and I presented self-care and student athletes.